Hello, welcome to Infused. Welcome to the year 2021. Welcome, Mike. Welcome, Francesca.
Hi.
We did it. See this son of a bitch? Gone. Now, whew, doesn't that feel good?
Yes,
Thank
very
God.
good.
How you guys doing this morning?
Doing good. It's a bright, cloudy day in Delaware.
Delaware special. We got a little fog. We got a little. Oh no! How you doing today, Francesca? Feeling good?
Yeah, I feel great. It's a good day. Still new in the year. I'm happy with all of it.
I got to be honest. I slept like garbage, so I'm not as chipper as you guys. I have a puppy who thinks she's Marvin Hagler at night, so she jabs the hell out of me, and I feel like I've been taking body blows, like I'm in the old Tyson's Punch Out.
So, Nick, I'm going to share this truth. I slept like garbage also, not because of my dog, but because I was binge watching Cobra Kai.
Yes.
I swear to God, I was up to like 2:30 finishing that bitch out.
All right, Sensei Patterson, you finished the whole thing?
I did.
I thought it was cool on New Year's Eve that I saw all my friends online sharing the graph of what time Cobra Kai was released, according to your region.
Yeah,
so much
fun.
It's embarrassing. It's like one of those like bad things that you watch. You like, what do they call those? The guilty pleasures. Like it's like one of those where you're like, I gotta watch it. Now I'm hooked, and I just had to finish it out.
It's like candy. I can't stop. It's the junk food of TV. I love it. I'm here for it. I'm binging it. I don't even care what's in it. I just want more of it. And I do love that fucking show. I love that show. I'll defend it.
No, I mean, it's hitting all the buttons nostalgia-wise with a lot of people. And isn't it a good thing, like one more time, to have like something that connects us communally? Like, did you see that? Like it's we used to call it the water cooler show or whatever the hell that was.
Yeah.
Now we got Cobra Kai, but you have to race through them so people don't ruin it for you.
It's true. It is a part of the reason why I binge isn't even out of pleasure. It's out of necessity to not get it ruined. It's like I've waited this long to find out what season 3 is going to actually deliver. So I might as well not get it ruined by some jerk on Facebook, getting all excited and posting the end in a status with an exclamation point and then reading the comment war that will inevitably follow.
Yeah.
But I got to say, I never thought Karate Kid universe was ever going to be a thing. I never would have guessed that would be the takeaway from the 80s.
Here's a reveal. No one involved in Karate Kid did either. That's what that was. But it's good that you didn't have it ruined, because my other favorite way that people ruin things now is you wake up and there's 3 reasons why it could have been better freaking blog somewhere. And you're like, go to hell with your blog. But check our blog out. In the new year, I wanted to do something. I was thinking a little bit about, I've gotten a little bit different, as I got older, where I'm not into this idea of like denying time passing or denying that we get older. Like, I think it's very, very healthy. I have a little hospital scare, and you learn, somebody put it this way to me: it's much healthier to gather those years in instead of denying them. Gather those in, get that experience, don't hold them back. And I think that's a cool take on maturing in a healthy way, And I was thinking about this when I was a youngster. I dreaded that first day on the January calendar where you had to, you head back to school, and you had like a week or a week and a half of bliss and video games and Karate Kid, if you will, and whatever. But now I find myself approaching January entirely different. And I wanted to go back to something. One of our last days at the office in December, Francesca brought this up, where we were just in conversation, the 3 of us, moving stuff around, changing the set for the future set for Infused. And Francesca, you said that period between Christmas Day and New Year's Day, that's your favorite time of the year. Now, I'm curious as to why that is. And I'm also curious as to if you've always felt that way.
I definitely haven't always felt that way. If you'd asked me, even up to recently, like a couple years ago or a year ago, I probably would have said my favorite time of year is summer because I love the beach. And it's just sort of an answer that is easy. Everybody understands it and makes sense. But recently I've realized that's not exactly true. My favorite time of year is this after the holidays and up to the very beginning of the new year. It's my favorite because I realize almost everyone, or at least everyone in my little world, and what it seems the message of the world at large seems to be, this is time off. It's time off either from your work or your school, or holiday obligations, or expectations in general. We're not expected to perform the same rate, the same pace, the same excellence as all the days before that and all the days to come. And so it just feels like it's this time where we can have a collective like breath of relief. And it's like, this is so nice. Nobody's asking me anything. And I needed that. And I never knew I needed it until I'm in it.
You know what's really cool? I love what you said. And one of the things I really picked up on this year that I noticed that I loved was no one else is emailing really or texting. And so it's nice being off and not feeling like you're falling behind.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Like, and so it was nice just to know that everybody was kind of recharging and doing their own thing. But you know, hey, we'll come back in a week or so, whatever it's going to be, and be ready to roll. But it is nice to be able to just unplug and not feel like you're missing out on something, like the fear of missing something scenario.
Yeah. And it's so true, Mike, because with that fear gone or that pressure gone, it's just this time that we've all collectively set aside to kind of reevaluate everything, whether that's like you're looking back on things or you're looking ahead to what things could be. You're reevaluating everything, and you kind of get to reset your priorities, and you reset them by removing work or school or whatever it is that takes up a majority of your time, removing obligations to family or friends, or obligations to the calendar, really.
Right.
And then you find out what rises to the top in all that space, what actually comes up to you as important when you have that time and space to reflect and look back. I love that. I think it's great because I can look at what I'm proud of. I can look at what I want to change for the future. And it's done without this judgment because we're collectively doing something and we're doing it individually to us. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just a period of time. We just set it aside, and to some degree or another, we decide what's important to us. And I'm not alone in this time of thinking, but I'm not influenced by others' thoughts.
Well, saying that you're not alone is really interesting, because I do think it humanizes people from your perspective. I was thinking of that, 26th or 27th, I'm on my front porch. My neighbor comes out and I'm cracking a beer open at 12 noon. And he just looks at me like,
sure, it was noon, Nick.
He just looks at me like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Why so late?
And I look at that as a really healthy, this little period that we're allowing ourselves. Other cultures do it. I had to learn about the month of August in southern Italy, where my family's from, and they work as hard as anybody, but they just know when those batteries need to be recharged. So I think that's really cool, and I'm so grateful for your answer. So I want to go to you, Mike, because same last day of the office, you were just emphatically like, I love January, and what I mean. This is interesting to me, coming from you're a beach guy. You're into the sea, the sand, and the surf. Those things aren't readily accessible to us right now. What is it about January that really gets you going?
Yeah, I think January for me is one of the most exciting times a year at work. That's what I'm talking about. Like, I love January. From the work perspective, I love it because, much like Francesca, I use that week after Christmas, before New Year's, to kind of really just unplug, but then reassess and really think and just kind of be in my own head for once, without distraction, without, other priorities kind of getting in the way. So when I feel like January for me is like the fresh page, like the new chapter, or it's even the new book of what Alias Can is going to be. And it's a time when we can reflect on what's happened in the past and yank out the things that we're proud of and that were successes, and just leave all the other bullshit behind and take those highlights and use them as the foundation for what we're going to do moving forward, and to really set the tone for the next 12 months. Because I mean, it goes by fast. And if you don't take that time to reflect, and you find yourself mired in what could have been or what might be. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important to yank out those highlights and to use them as stepping stones to continue to drive forward, and to, further what we're doing as a company and as individuals.
Well, then you put us there. You put us there perfectly. So everyone was saying, let's get this goddamn year over with. Let's get 2020 over with. 2021 has arrived. What is it that you want different for this year? Let's talk Alias Can. Let's talk about your approach going into this year that everybody's been anticipating.
I love this question, Nick. So I didn't know this one was coming, actually. So, but I love it. I think what I want differently, at least from my personal perspective on this one, is we're in a completely different place in terms of where we are as a company than we were 12 months ago. So our mindset is totally different going into 2021. And so what we're really focused on, and Francesca and I spent time yesterday just really honing this and what we're really focused on is just being better at what we do, doing less, but make it more. So in other words, really focused on what we're trying to deliver to the marketplace and who we want as customers, and doing a much deeper, better job of doing those tasks. And I think that's really that kind of our overarching theme. And then for me, what I really want out of it is I know I need to be more patient with it. Patient with the process. And I think, it's a mindset, as you guys know, I'm involved in a couple different businesses. One's an established business, and then Alias Can and Terrapin are more startup. So, the mindset for an established business in a startup is totally different. If you look at a startup if you look at the mindset of a established business, it's about continuing what you've already started. It's a proven concept that you need to sustain and tweak and continue to add value and continue to kind of protect and enhance your position with what you're doing. As opposed to that, the startups, it's not a proven concept yet. There's still work to be done. In fact, if anything, it's more of like, we've got to survive and make sure that this is going to work, or else we might not be here in 12 months from now. And so the mindset coming in for Alias Can, for Francesca and I, when we were talking about this in December, and then again earlier this week, was what are we going to do to ensure that we're here in 12 months? And how can we make that a sustainable value proposition for who we want to work with, so that it's something that's a no-brainer for people to want to work with Alias Can. And that just proves our value proposition, and proves our business model.
Yeah, I think that all of that is critical to setting us up for success. And I think where it came from, Mike, is us talking about what we really wanted out of, our lives in general, personally for ourselves. And then how do we get there with this business? Because it's not that we want the business to be a success so that we can put another notch on the business bedpost. that's not the point of this. It should serve us. And Mike really brought that to me. He was like, this is bullshit if we're not enjoying it. If we become slaves to it instead of our business serving us, then it's counterproductive, even if on the surface it's a quote unquote success. So while it's really important for us to get the business to a legitimate, by the book, numbers success, to get it to be sustainable, it should be, in doing that, producing something for our lives on a larger scale. I think that's been probably one of the biggest, mindset shifting conversations Mike and I have ever had, at least for me, because I think it's very easy to look at work as the be all end all, and it's frankly not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Francesca, the only reason we had that conversation, because from past experience, I knew that it can go in that direction really fast. And so it's just, I try to, you see some gray in the beard, and wisdom comes with age. And, it is one of those things that I've learned that in the past. And I learned that it's not okay to have a business that's a success and then you're miserable. Like, that's not what this is all about. And it's, especially a startup. And I say we're a startup because I always look at we're a startup because we've only been around like 3+ years or whatever. And
right.
Kind of a funny thing, and as an aside, I was talking to a guy last month, and he said in cannabis, everything's like dog years. So if you've been around 3 years, it's like 20 years in the real world. But, I still consider us a startup in terms of we're still trying to establish ourselves and be what we want. Our vision isn't met yet. What we
right.
So
I'm
going to always call us a startup until we've met that vision. But the thing I see that's really, really goddamn scary that I see a lot of people doing, especially in the startup mode, is that desperation to be successful and to prove your concept makes leaders or encourages leaders to start chasing shiny objects and to do things that aren't consistent with the vision and aren't consistent with what they know is best. But it's out of desperation, out of fear of failure, out of fear of whatever it might be. But it happens a lot where people get off track because of they're dying to be successful. And it's counterproductive.
Yeah, it is. And the idea that, you said there's no point in being successful if you're just gonna be miserable, but how easy is it, Mike? I mean, you had to teach yourself that or learn that for yourself and then teach it, because how easy is it to buy the myth that once you're successful, then you'll be happy? And it's a myth, folks. It is so not true. Like, whether you're profitable or not, profitable at a certain, amount, or you've grown or you've met your vision, that's not going to be, you're not going to hit that bell and grab that brass ring on that ride and say like, done, did it, I'm good now. It's constantly going to be innovating. So I think having that vision, and then, Mike, like you said, not chasing the shiny objects, giving yourself permission to take some time to slow down and focus is probably our biggest change. It's something that we started last year, but we're expanding and continuing and getting tighter on this year.
Especially the patience part, because I'm super guilty of being like, hey, this is what we need to do, and this is also what we need to do, and this is also, they're all three are important things. So let's do them all in parallel. And now everybody's scattered and everybody's miserable to some, not miserable, but just not happy. And so, it just is like for me to improve my work life, but also for everybody at Alias Can, because, everybody's happiness and effectiveness is my job, basically, when it comes to the work responsibilities. So I think, it's one of the things I really want to push, that is being patient with the process and trusting it and understanding that things don't all have to happen at once, and prioritizing and making sure that things that are going to generate revenue and generate growth that are aligned with our vision are happening in the right order.
And it's impossible to have that clarity unless you have the space and time for it.
No doubt. And I have that experience too, being involved in other businesses. I mean, it's invaluable. Your friend makes a good point that cannabis is very much like dog years, right? I mean, and being in the game for a couple of years automatically makes you a veteran. You said something that just really put it in terms that I could relate to, where I'm thinking, it has to be the difference between being in an established business and starting the new year. Has to almost be like, when somebody wins a title or when somebody wins a Super Bowl, say, what are we going to do to compete next year? Who's retiring? Who are we going to plug in? What's the most important signing we need to make, or 2 signings we need to make? Versus cannabis is almost like an expansion team saying, holy shit, what do we have to do to get people in the seats? And I think that's where that thing comes from, where you rush to do everything. So I guess it's got to be easier. And you tell me, you can now say, we don't have to make this adjustment right now. We can wait till the third quarter. Things start to wear down. We need to change the game a little bit. But that's patience that I don't think a lot of people in cannabis have, because they don't have that luxury of experience, Mike.
Maybe. I mean, and I experience that definitely does not hurt. So I think it's definitely experience related, but it's also just, it's hard to trust the process sometimes, especially if you're on on the borderline between being in the red and being in the black, you'd start really grasping at straws, thinking that maybe I'm missing something and we should do this. That's what will make us consistently in the black, or consistently, at a place where we want to be. And so like I said, I think desperation is a word that I think comes to mind for a lot of people as they start just grasping at the straws and getting away from their vision.
Yeah. And that desperation pushes you to create false urgency rather than look at what's important. And I think a lot of people who have ever, read a business book or taken a business seminar and everything has seen like the quadrant of urgent and important and high and low, and what's highly important and super urgent, what's not important but also urgent. It's a whole thing in the world, but it's there because there's substance to it. The fact that we often confuse importance and urgency when we're in the moment, because look how easy it is to tell yourself that the reason you're not getting to something is rarely in the moment because it's not important. It's usually, at least for me, I guess I'll just speak for me, is that when I find that I'm not getting to something, I take it as a personal failure. So it's I didn't make the time. I didn't prioritize this right. It was harder than I expected. I didn't set myself up for success and I let myself down. When really what could be happening is that I was just working on the wrong thing. But if I decided that beforehand and I said, this is coming up and this is urgent versus this is a long-term and this is important, I can manage my time, my priorities, my energy, my mood, everything a whole lot better. But it takes perspective, and it takes that pause, which feels like forever when, like Mike said, you're walking that line, or maybe you're not in the black yet, or you never have been, or you're like, I've got to do something to get this to where I need it to be. And so I'll do everything. That's always the wrong answer.
So bringing this full circle, like, Francesca, you mentioned having the space to get your head and your emotions in the right place. Like that time after Christmas, before New Year's, that's the space.
Yep,
like
exactly.
That continues to be the space. And that's, I think, why you love that time so much. And same with me. And because to me, that's what leads to January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever it is that we come back to, where we're ready to do the next thing and write the next chapter for our story.
100%.
I love this idea of starting out the year and having that idea of being more patient and ultimately being more selective. It's just a healthier roadmap.
Yeah. Well, here, where my struggle in this one is the balance between complacency and being aggressive and being, pushing it forward, because I don't want to be complacent, but I also don't want to come out with my pants on fire and doing all the wrong things, or
having the things control you rather than you control them. Yeah.
And so there's a very fine line between how to start the year and be one extreme or the other. And I think this is the most relaxed I've been coming into a January, probably my whole career. But it's intentional. Great. I mean, I was like telling myself, like, I've got to let this play out. And otherwise I make myself miserable. I make everyone around me miserable, my family, my coworkers, and so, I'm learning more about myself, which is cool. But at the same time, I'm like hoping it's what business needs. But at the same time, I'm like, well, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to light my pants on fire again and start kicking ass,
It's true. Yeah. It's so hard to
I'll give it a week.
Maintain. It is. It's really hard to sustain, but you also know that this is what you need to create a sustainable business model. So it's a really tough catch-22. You've got to be convicted in your vision and then commit to that process.
Right.
Yeah. And the valuable, again, we're going back to the idea of experience here, does teach you to be comfortable with the idea of not chasing after every object, or not saying, oh yeah, we're going to try to sell cannabis toilet paper, or do it. Like, nah, man, this is what we do. We do some things, and there's other things that we won't do. And I think when you can identify, now here's what we do and here's what we're not doing, that's really valuable. And that's a really good thing.
That's kind of been pretty refreshing. I don't know. I know you've had a bunch of no thank yous that you've delivered, Francesca, from different leads have come in, and so have I. And it's, in some ways it feels good to just say, you know what, sorry, I understand what you'd like to have done. We can't help you for whatever reason. Good luck. Maybe you can talk to this person or that person, try to help them if we, steer them in the right direction. But knowing that we know who we want to be and how we want to do it and who we want to serve, that feels pretty good. And it just reinforces the no thank yous to the people that don't fit that criteria.
It is so similar. I hope it's similar. I just thought of this, so as I'm talking, it might fall apart. But I think it's very similar to dating. So when you first start dating, it's like you'll say yes to anybody that asks you out that you're remotely attracted to. Sure, why not? Because I don't know what I like yet, because I'm just putting myself out there for the first time. But then you go on dates with different types of people, and you learn the ones where your patterns are. You're like, I don't like this kind of person. I don't like when people do this. If they're rude to the waiter, out of here. If they're whatever, a bad driver, I'm not into you, wow. Whatever it is. And so then you learn what you like, and then you can start targeting your dating towards that and being like, now I need to find where these people that have these things that I like live, or what they do, or what they're into, so I can put myself there and in a position to receive more of what's good for me. And then from there, be highly selective and choose the right partner that you establish a long-term relationship with. Well, our business is the same way. At first, we're going to try everything. Sure, we'll sell your hemp. Sure, we'll sell your cannabis. Sure, we'll sell anything. If you've got it, we'll sell it. And it's like, now we're learning. Certain things don't get sold the same way. We're not as good at certain things as we are at others. We require certain things from clients. They have to have a certain level of operations or a certain personality or whatever it is. And now we're putting ourselves where we have the most chances to find the right partners. And now we get to be highly selective and pick the ones we want to have long-term relationships with. It didn't fall apart. I'm happy.
It's interesting analogy. And it's almost the basis of another episode.
It really is. It really is. So we really got to be selective, and we have to, we'll only consider people that are from this dojo and not the other dojo. I've got a studio audience in here, and they like that one. Let's shift gears in a minor fashion. Talking about what you guys do. Well, what's something that doesn't change year in and year out? Let's identify the old American idiom from the 19th century. I spent 13 years teaching 19th century literature.
Wow.
So the brass tacks. What do we need? What are the critical needs that you need to put in place to start the year out the right way?
I'll start, Francesca.
Go for it. Yeah.
How would you want to go back and forth? Because I know one for sure.
Ooh.
no, there's about 4 things that I think are really, really critical for not just cannabis owners and leaders to put in place, but any business for that matter. I mean, this is a kind of a recipe that I think fits almost any business. And so I think the 4 things that I would recommend any business owner put in place are, number 1, the vision. You have to have a clear vision of where you're going to go. You have to communicate that vision, because it doesn't do the rest of the company any damn good if you're sitting with that idea in your head, but you don't tell them. So, to me, it's having the vision, communicate it. And then the third part of that is to let everyone know how they fit into that vision. Because, I've seen over time that when people understand how their role contributes to the success and to the moving of the company towards where they're going, when people understand that they're a part of that and they're a necessary and critical part of that, it just motivates people and it lets them see that everything they do day in and day out that can seem monotonous and mundane at times, especially in the sales world. But when they see that doing those things adds up and moves the needle, then that just creates a lot of momentum and a lot of commitment, a lot of loyalty towards the vision. So I think that is first and foremost the first thing that is of utmost importance to roll the year out with.
And Mike, you said it perfectly to me once, where I forget what we were talking about, but it was about rolling out something to everybody. And we were talking about how to present it, and you said the only thing that they're going to want to know really is, what does this mean for me? Yeah. So if you can't articulate what it means for them, then you're going to lose the people that are integral to the vision and making that succeed.
Yep. Yeah, I always think, I mean, that's what everybody cares about, that. What's it going to mean for me? And what's it going to mean for my family and everything? Because at the end of the day, no one comes to work because they have nothing else to do. I mean, work is a part of the equation of life, and how it translates into their personal life and their goals and all that. That's what really matters. So people have to understand that.
100%.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been listening to and doing a lot of reading and listening to interviews. One of my favorite writers, David Chase, who created The Sopranos. He worked on Rockford Files. He worked on Northern Exposure. David Chase says that the most consistent theme from the show The Sopranos is things go wrong when you don't make people feel appreciated. And I thought about that to myself, and the thread that goes through that series. Every time somebody messes up, every time someone starts to get lazy, every time somebody jumps ship or does, it's because they're
feeling they're being leapfrogged by some other. It's like, well, I was in line for that role or that captain or that. Yeah. Or like, I am being disrespected. And yeah, it's a shit show.
I thought it was such a simple thing, but it's the most brilliant. powerful thread through. I'm
gonna have to rewatch the Rockford Files now to see if I can find that.
Oh no, it was just in The Sopranos.
Oh, okay.
And it was from their Talking Sopranos podcast, which is exceptional. Exceptional. So let's go to, we talked about the vision. We talked about the mapping out the year. What do we need to do in terms of resources as far as, sales are concerned and that kind of thing?
I think one thing you have to look at is, now that you have the vision, you have to put the pieces in place to make sure that there's operations to carry out that vision. So that's looking ahead and saying, okay, for this to be true by this time, then what do we need to have in place? Both the people that we need to have in the roles that are right for that, maybe the training that's required for them to grow into the roles that they need to grow into, the technology, the tools, the inventory, whatever it is, it's going to be different business to business. But those real tangible things that are basically setting up the chessboard to say, okay, I have things where they need to be to make the moves that I need to make to get to where I need to go. So a lot of this is simple operations, and you can look and say, I'm struggling because I can't fulfill orders because I don't have somebody reliable to show up to pick and pack. Well, then what do you need? Do you need a new system? Do you need a new person? What is it? So looking at your resources, identifying the gaps that you both have and need to fill, but more importantly, you're going to have, and you need to have a plan for.
Yeah, that's a great one. And I think, we've seen that go in the last 12 months. We've seen a significant difference between our clients that have process and procedures in place and the reliable people to fulfill orders versus those that do not. And so it's something I'm glad you brought that up second, Francesca, because, I think a lot of people say, all right, you have a vision, then you need to get sales. Everybody always thinks sales is like what drives a company, but
it's the money.
And everybody wants to hire salespeople, and you could have 100 salespeople, but if you don't have your operations squared away in the back end, you're wasting your salespeople's money and their time and wasting your money. And so it's operations is so critical, and it just continues for us to reinforce how to make sure we have our operations set up internally, because it's a lot of work. I mean, setting up operations and writing procedures and making sure process is followed consistently in any business, whether you're growing or selling or doing whatever you're doing in the space, it's a lot of work. And there's many times not immediate return on investment of people that you hire to put in place to do operational type job functions. But if you don't have it, you're fucked. Bottom line.
And a lot of people a lot of cultivators don't have it, unfortunately. We'll run down a list of questions when we start working with somebody of like, do you have a menu? Do you have testing? Do you have pictures? Do you have a logo? Do you have a brand? Do you have
sample program?
Sample policy. Yeah, exactly. Transportation. Right. so many times the answers are no to those things, and we have to help them build that because it's necessary to get to where they want to go. So
Now, I will
always
say,
check.
I love helping people build that stuff, though.
It's so fun.
It is fun to do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun as
long as they follow through.
Yeah. But I mean, I think as an outsider, it's easy for us to see sometimes what people lack in those areas because we're not invested in it and we didn't create it. So we can kind of see from afar and go, oh, okay, so here's a couple areas that can have really high impact if you just address these scenarios, and we can help you with it or guide you in the right direction. But until those foundational things are done, like, don't hire us to sell for you because nobody's going to be happy.
Well, it is cool. It's something I really hope that we get to do in 2021 because it would make great fodder for a show. But I really want to go to another farm because we were limited in our travel last year. But it'd be interesting to go to a farm and be able to see, like, okay, where's the wheel going to fall off, or what's the one thing that needs to be tightened up here, just from our collective experience.
Yep.
So give me another component, another one of these brass tacks that's very, very critical to getting the year going correctly for you, Mike.
I think, after we have the operation stuff squared away, then to me that my head goes to sales and building out a sales model, and understanding who we want to target, how we're going to target them in a way that is convenient and effective for them. Because, every sales prospect, many times they want to be communicated with in a different way. So some people are more in the phone, some are in the text, some are into email. So, in doing our job effectively, we've got to not only make contact with people, but then also understand the most effective and convenient way for them to do business with us. So that kind of cat and mouse game is, I love that part of it. And it's because it's true, like, detective work almost, to really find the right people, make a connection, figure out the best way to, work with them to bring our products to their stores or to, do whatever it is we're challenged to do for our clients. And so it's a lot of fun, but the sales element of it and building out that sales model that will be repeatable and throughout the year is something that to me is probably the third thing we look at doing.
I love what you said, Mike, because there's, especially towards the end there, because that's the critical piece of figuring out how, obviously everybody wants to be communicated with, like, what does your sales look like, but then taking that and creating systems from it so that it's repeatable, like you said, and it's going to deliver predictable results or largely predictable results. So I think creating a system of sales is the mature, like the advanced option of addressing the sales. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, because anybody can make a piece of paper and write down who they're calling and write a couple notes down. And I see a lot of people notebook style it, or then the next thing people do is they'll start keeping an Excel spreadsheet, and now that's their system. But to really utilize a CRM and to track activities and to set tasks and create a pipeline and to do all those things and, develop profiles that you then can use for future use to really hone in on your best prospects for the future. That is advanced stuff. And that's what most people don't do. And I think I take for granted that we do it because we've done it for so long. But it is fun, and it's fun to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition. Is that too many fruits in one basket?
No, it works. The fruits come to fruition all the time.
All right. Cornucopia here.
Yeah. Anyway, it's fun to see.
Flip that over to this. The things you're talking about creating, Mike, and the things that kind of guide your practice throughout the rest of the year. Stuff's time consuming. Coming up with SOPs, drafting that stuff. But I mean, tell us, what's the downside if you don't take care of that stuff now, Francesca? What happens?
You're going to have chaos on your hands. It's going to fall apart. You'll be able to juggle the balls for a little bit, but you're inevitably going to drop them because you keep adding more and you didn't realize that you were at capacity. So balls start getting dropped, and that can look like missed sales, missed opportunities, unfulfilled orders, employee turnover for sure. There's a lot that can go wrong if you don't have all of those things in place, but in particular, operations and sales systems that are linked to a clear vision that's being communicated.
I got to think the downside of that too is, once the wheels do start to come off and you're stuck in, for lack of a better term, you're just going to allow it until the next time you're able to catch your breath. So why not put the work in now, so that things are taken care of properly? It's a really interesting way to get, draw the curtain back a little bit. Are we missing one area? Do we cover them?
I think you need to address marketing, whether that's marketing, advertising, PR, whatever you want to call it. Marketing is the next component that you have to have planned out for your business to succeed. Yeah. And it's really important to think through marketing in the right way and not do an apples to apples of sales to marketing, expecting the same kind of ROI on marketing that you would in sales. Unfortunately, a lot of times marketing is just lost dollars to create something that's the long game, whether that's a presence, a brand, to a bigger audience, more views. And you really don't always know what works until after you've spent the money, the time, the effort, and the energy to do it and see the results and measure them. So again, back to the dating of you kind of have to try a little of everything, or try a little of everything that makes the most sense to see what sticks and what you want to stick with. So I think marketing is undeniably important because it's going to be a big revenue suck if you are not planning it out. It's very easy to get caught up in marketing energy and being like, oh, well, if this is the next hottest thing, I have to do SEO. Oh, I guess that's what it costs. And suddenly you're draining your bank account every month with marketing dollars, and you had no plan, strategy, or measurements or metrics around it. So that's a big mistake if you ignore marketing.
Yep. And I think, the other thing we see a lot of too is, I always look at marketing as like the voice, your voice out there that's talking and delivering messages. And so many times we see marketing not being aligned or consistent with what the sales team is doing. And so now you have different voices, and we see, the other thing we see a lot of is the salespeople don't know what marketing is even doing at all. So, they'll go, or say we'll call a store and they'll be, hey, I got to add a promo today that's 20% off all pre-rolls. And you're like, oh, now you look like a dumbass because you don't even know. And so, to have a plan, to be aligned is huge, but to also have a plan, Francesca, like you were saying, and to plan out what you want to do and how you want to do it, and to put a budget against it, and demand that whoever you're working with, whether you're doing it in-house or you're hiring somebody, that they provide you metrics and stats to show that it's having some impact is huge. And I think what I see a lot of people doing is a lot of just throw money at marketing as and then say marketing doesn't work when they don't have another big step change in sales. And so it's got to be strategic, people. I mean, man, come on. It's, make it think ahead a couple steps in this game and you can make it work. But so many people I feel like are just like month to month marketers is how I describe them.
Ooh,
absolutely. It is so common. And that is not in a shaming way at all, because it is so common. It is so many people are doing this, and we're saying be better than everybody else by having this plan and applying a strategy and looking ahead. That's how you can rise above everybody else. I love what you said, Mike, about you think of marketing as the voice. I love that. I will add to it. I think good marketing is the truth. If you are just saying things to put them out there to get, it's like clickbait essentially.
Yeah.
You're lying and everyone's going to see through it. We've all been marketed to for years and years. So we know usually if it's obvious and you're just doing a formulaic, BS, we're going to see it and it's not going to work. So make sure your marketing's truthful too.
Yep. Good point.
Outstanding. So we have our bases covered to start the new year. Everything in place. Everyone feeling comfortable and optimistic about what 2021 is going to bring. The year of the ox, Chinese New Year next month.
What was last year? The year of the what?
The year of the rat. Isn't that freaking? I mean, a little on the nose there, right? Yeah. Jeez, the year of the rat. What's that? Yeah, I know. the audience thinks Francesca's way too into this dating thing in 2021. It sounds like I should be worried. That's a good point. Give him a infused hat when they leave. So it's just the end of the first episode of the year. So I just want to say, we're not getting into a bunch of questions here and there. I just want to say hello though to someone in particular. So I want to go to the great state of New Jersey and say hello to Frankie Fifth Year, producer extraordinaire. Are you there, my friend?
Yes, sir. How is everybody?
Hey, Frank, we covered that already.
What a jerk.
Wow.
What a jerk.
Mean Francesca in
Watching
2021.
a little Cobra Kai girl starts chopping at everybody.
Tori.
Sweeping the leg.
Frank, you doing okay in this new year?
Yeah, I'm excited to get started. 2020 was a pain in the ass, but yeah, looking forward to 2021.
Now I've got intel that you're actually joining us from the Borgata. Are you up? You down? How you doing?
I'm even right now.
Hey,
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a win. Anytime you're
That is
even
a
at a
win.
casino, that's a dub.
Exactly.
you know who you are, even Steven. I love it. Frank, I want to start with you. Any resolutions? Are you a resolution guy?
Yes, and the resolution that I wanted to start 2021 was to actually put on a full outfit on Zoom.
I love it.
It's always been business on top, PJs on the bottom, but I want to do the full outfit this time.
Yeah, and then you were doing that thing that I mean, to each his own, and we're in the cannabis community, but I did not like nude Fridays. That was the thing that just didn't go over well.
This is more questions than answers.
I have a lot of questions.
I love that one though, bud. I had a similar thought about just getting dressed in business casual just to, see how the hell I'd feel. It's been a while.
I don't even know where my stuff is.
A big bag just thrown somewhere. Anything else, bud? Was on the resolution front?
Just living my best life,
There you go.
Hey man,
being with family. It's been a blessing 2020, and it's something to look forward to this year. Just being around family again. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, you live your
It's
best
true.
life. We love everything about you. Everything you do for us and what you do for Infused is just amazing. And my best to Big Rags and Marjorie, please, in the new year for
I will.
healthy,
Thank you.
healthy, happy one. Francesca, inner resolutions. Even if I know this, I'm going to pretend that I don't.
I love goal setting. So
Really?
I know it's shocking living with me. You'd never know it. I love goal setting and resolutions. I just look at as the time to goal set for the year. So I don't usually resolve to necessarily change anything because I'll forget what I said I wanted to change and I'll just not do it. And B, it's like setting this overthinker up for major disappointment.
Shocking.
So I just look at goals and set a few in a few different ways. But actually what I did recently was I did some journaling about what are my values that I live by, and kind of looking back in both, looking back to 2020, but also looking back in all the years and seeing where do I consistently feel joyful or accomplished or safe or confident or like the best version of myself. And
Right.
then I identified, 4 or 5 kind of key values of like play and care and work and, a couple other things. And it was just like, yep, those are the things that I want more of, and they're also the things I need to watch to make sure they don't become my own worst enemy. So that's where I've been this year. It's a little different take, but goal setting and value identifying.
I like that. It's a refreshing take, actually.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, Mike, you're up. Are you into resolutions?
I think it's hard not to. If you're into reflecting and thinking back and thinking ahead, it's almost impossible not to set some sort of resolution for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm not into like pressure on myself. I feel like my life has enough pressure inherently anyway. So, but what I am into, so I'm not into like setting a hardcore resolution of being like, I'm going to work out, X days or do this or do that. Like, I don't, like, that's to me is just a setup for failure. But what I am into is just looking at it as a whole and saying like, okay, so what have I learned about my life? What have I learned about myself? And like, so I just turned 49. So I feel like this is a big year because I feel like, I'm hitting like a 50 spot, next year. And it's kind of freaking me out. So I'm kind of looking at this year saying like, all right, this is a year where I really want to do more for myself to set up the next decade almost. And so like, I want to
love that.
better at like taking care of myself and like physically and mentally, emotionally, because, I don't want to hit my 50s and turn into like a grouch or have bad health or not be able to live the life I want to live because, I've got high blood pressure or stress, or, all that kind of stuff that can really drastically inhibit your life. You know what I mean? So this is something I'm sure Frank hasn't thought about yet since he's still in his 20s. But as you get to hit like a number like 50, it kind of gets in your head, I think. And it's definitely been in my head to some degree, but I don't want to use it as like a negative. I'm trying to look at it and say, okay, so what do I need to do this year? I've given myself 12 months to say, where do I want to be a year from now that I feel like I've set myself up for another fun, strong, healthy decade.
I love that, Mike. Damn. I think that's so cool. And
really?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I tend to have a very negative outlook about birthdays and my birthday. And so I love that you're treating this as like, how can I take the best care of future me right now? I love that.
Set it up.
I love that too. Damn you guys.
What about you, Nick?
Cheers, Nick.
It's going to sound, I say it every year. So, I mean, becoming the ultimate fighting champion is, it's something that I'm always in January, like, yeah, man, I'm going to get it. And then I always lose sight of it for some reason.
Peters off as the year goes.
No, I think this year I've resolved like simple little things too. It's very much in the vein of what you're talking about, Mike. And what Francesca was talking about too, with identifying what you value and pursuing those things. So I've kind of resolved to get back to, I'm trying to read at least 30 minutes a day that doesn't involve, cannabis, work-related stuff, but at least do that 30 minutes a day, continuing with fitness and exercising, but really chasing the passions and practicing those things I value. So making sure I get back into practicing drums, practicing music, just flexing those muscles as much as I can, because I know that those things, that's what I identify as. Or even, I started juggling a soccer ball again over the break.
Wow.
I felt like a kid, so I was like, this is great. If I can touch these things and get back to those places, I'm going to be a lot better. But
nice.
I want to.
That's awesome. Thanks. Does this mean that we're going to get more of your voice work in Infused?
Yeah. I did work on that a little bit too over the break, so I'm excited about that.
Wow, a teaser.
Yeah, I don't know, but a couple quick things. We're gonna get out of here for the first one of the year. We're coming in the year strong. I think that and I think Frank would agree with me. You guys set us up for success. We're excited about the year and where you've steered this ship. And what you've steered it through. So we're all very, very excited about that. And we're heading into the year, like I got to say hello to Ashley. I want to say welcome. We have a new teammate in Megan. We're so excited. Like we're we are poised for success. We're feeling strong. So I love this team and I love what it's become. So maybe we could all resolve to a couple of things. Let's be kind to one another, be good to one another in this new year. And that's going to keep us feeling happy and healthy. Look, rate, review, like, and subscribe to Infused. If you'd be so kind, it would mean the world to us. I had to say it. Mike told me to. And the it's never gonna
Mike
get old.
Didn't say it. I did.
It's gonna get old. But yeah, we're excited for what Infused is going to be in the new year. So we're going to see you in February. Please spread the word. Help us spread the word. We really, really appreciate it. February's coming, year of the ox. We're going to see you next time from Delaware. Bye-bye now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.